All right. Hi. Welcome back to Inventory Watch. This is where we go over the weekly numbers for the Phoenix housing market for both rentals and homes for sale. And this week we are going to go over the numbers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about foreclosures and how those are trending, because I feel like nobody's talking about foreclosures coming back to the market. So let's get into it. Let's shrink my face a little bit here, and we will start with homes for sale as we normally do. So I want to start off with new listings first this week, because I think this trend is normal for this time of year. I said it last week. We are the fourth week in a row of decreased listings coming to the market. So this is new listings. This people looking to sell their house. And so every week we get a fresh batch of new listings coming to the market. We peaked out here October 7th. We had 1,985 listings hit the market. And then ever since then, it's been trending down. Like I said, this is normal. We're going into the holidays. This coming week is Thanksgiving. We have Christmas coming up and New Year's, and people generally aren't thinking about selling their home unless it's needed. Unless they have some urgency around it, like they have to sell to get a new job or something like that, like they're moving across country. So those are the types of situations that we see usually coming to the market. So one would say, like, hey, there's less inventory coming to the market. Do we have less inventory overall? And that answer is going to be no. Inventory's up again, another 259 homes, or probably 210 homes compared to last week. So even though inventory has slowly been reducing as far as the number of listings coming to the market, total active inventory has been increasing. So we had another 1.3% increase this week. And the reason why inventory is increasing is because demand is still very, very low. So it's the same story as I've been talking about every single week. Actually didn't check out price changes this week, so just ignore that. And we will not go over price cuts this week at all. But maybe I'll make a short. So keep an eye on that for a short or a reel. And I'll talk about price cuts in one of those. But let's go into our pending and contingents, because last week we actually saw a large increase from the week before, and that's because there's been some interest rate cuts. And so from the week ending November 4th to the week ending November 11th, like we saw 400 more buyers come to the market, which was about a 5% increase in buyer activity. And we've seen a couple more rate cuts since then, but we haven't seen more buyers come to the market. It actually didn't spur any more buyer activity. And what it did kind of spur was opening up, like their interest rates came down. And what it did spur was the under contract price just kind of going up a little bit. So the buyers that were still in the market were able to afford just a little bit more, not much more. I think we were average at like 618 or something like that. And now we're at 622. So it freed up about, $4,000 or $5,000 in the average asking price, the under contract price that we see here. So, let's talk about the pending ratio. The pending ratio is something that I just started looking at. Every week I come on and I tell you, like, as inventory goes up and demand falls, it's going to create this big divergence. And the bigger that divergence gets, the more price cuts we're going to see, and we're going to start seeing affordability come back to the market. So I finally, instead of doing this fun thing, put that into a ratio that we can actually keep track of and say, the closer that we get to a pending ratio of, say, 35, that would put us in a better position to see affordability coming back to the market. If we see the pending ratio head back towards 40, we're going to see it go back into the hands of the sellers and be a strong seller's market, and affordability will continue to be non-existent. So this is the ratio that you should come and check in on my videos every week to see where the pending ratio is and what we're looking at. It did increase last week when we saw those 400 new buyers come to market. We moved from a 38 to a 39, But with the new total inventory increasing and like the number of buyers not increasing, we did see it come down to 38.4. So this is generally where we've been hanging out. We haven't been able to bust through and get down to a 35. So again, we're just going to keep an eye on it because I think, the market's just starting to really slow down because of the holidays. It's really stagnant and we're not seeing much movement one way or the other, probably won't until after New Year's, right? Generally how our market works is that home buyers will come to the market, usually around spring because it's a great time to look. Usually interest rates float down a little bit for the spring buyer season and we have more inventory to choose from. So, and it's before the heat and it's before the kids get out of school. Usually people are making plans to move and coordinating it like, oh, my kid gets out of school at the end of May, beginning of June. And we're going to close on our house and move like around that time. That's usually like how our market ebbs and flows. So with that in mind, how we start January and February is going to be the big tell on how the market's going to go in 2024. So let's talk about interest rates. So again, we saw that first major dip in interest rates and we saw about 400 more home buyers come back to the market. And after the subsequent dips, we haven't really seen any additional buyers. So the movement in the reduction of interest rates haven't really been helping our market too much. And it's probably because it's that time of year, again, the holidays and yada, yada. So we have, what's most interesting. So we have a 30-year fix at 7.37, which was, over 8%. We have a 30-year FHA at 6.7%. And this doesn't include the full APR. So you might see like the 6.7 rate, but the full APR might be 7 point something, right? So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about these things. But we have a 15-year interest rate at 6.75, a 30-year VA at 6.7. The jumbo loans are 7.75. They're always a little bit more expensive. We have a 5-1 ARM at 6.9. So a 30-year FHA is actually better than a 5-1 ARM right now. And it's a little bit more stable. So with that said, interest rates, like I said, that movement in the rates hasn't really affected our market too much. I still think we're still unaffordable for most home buyers right now. So the other thing I want to talk about, we talked about this, pendant and contingent interest rates always go the wrong way. So let's talk about the sold homes. So it's the end of the year. We're seeing sold homes again trend down, like the number of actual sales that we're seeing. Again, holidays, that kind of thing. Nothing new here really. In this trend, nothing has really changed. And I think we'll continue to trend down until the end of the year. And again, January is going to have that tell. If you find this information valuable and you appreciate me going through these numbers every week, hit the like button or subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome if you could tell the algorithms that my info is super valuable. I want to go into the rental market quickly before we start talking about foreclosures. I'm really excited to talk about foreclosures because I'm a nerd, but let's just talk about the rental market because I am starting to see it slow down a bit and kind of hit the bottom of prices. For the last 4 to 8 weeks, I've been telling you like, hey guys, I've been seeing the rental market slow down. I've been seeing prices come down and there's more move-in specials and there's more price reductions and there's all of these things for renters right now that I've been seeing over the last 8 weeks. And I think it's starting to kind of like bottom out of like the major huge rent cuts. So I want to talk about that. But new rental listings coming to the market, again, it's slowing down. But same thing with the homes for sale, the active listings also, actually went up. So even though we're not getting any new listings, we still have low rental demand. And we saw about 30 more listings this week than we did last week. We're not seeing a huge amount of rental inventory like we're seeing in on the housing sector. We saw about 210 new homes on the market, or not new, but we saw it go up by 200 homes. This we're only seeing go up by 30. So it's a much smaller rate. But we did see it go up even though there's not a lot of new listings. And new listings are down week over week by 12%. That is a huge number to see new listings like not come to the market. But again, same thing that's trending with the housing market. Like people usually don't think about moving or renting around the holidays unless they absolutely have to. I'm going to show you guys some numbers that I thought was weird. So it actually is not. It's not weird because this is the third week. So the third and fourth weeks of the month is where most of the renters will their data tends to show up because people will close their rental leases like by the end of the month to start on the first. So this is actually not weird because it's actually lower than it was last month if we're looking at how many active renters are in the market. So 586 renters running around the market last week, putting offers in on rentals. But if we compare that to where we were last month, this is sold inventory, not active buyers or renters running around the market, but this is sold. Compare our solds to where we were last month and we're still down, right? So we had, last month we had 551 rentals. This week actually closed, and this week we had 540. And so we are down. Again, we're trending down on the amount sold. But what's interesting is why I think we bottomed out on the pricing for now. We'll see what happens, after the holidays and see if we're going to get more rentals hitting the market. But we did see that decrease like every week. I've been saying another decrease, another decrease, another decrease. Well, guess what? We actually saw a 5% increase in sold, like the final price of the rent. So I think we kind of hit that bottom on price reductions. And this is kind of where the market is for now, around 22 to 2,300. I think this is a little bit high, only because I did see a $12,000 rental in the numbers. And sometimes when we have those really big ones, it does skew the amount of the average sold price because that brings the average up. So we'll see what happens next week and to see if we're going to continue seeing about 2,300 be like the average price. So again, that's average. There are some that are less and some that are more. So that is the rental data. And so it's not too terrible news. I was hoping we'd get rents down a little bit more, so for a little bit more affordability, but I think we're making good headway with affordability in the rents because even though rents are down, you can still get like 8 weeks free or 6 weeks free if you are looking hard enough at those deals out there. And then you can use that to say, okay, spread out those 8 weeks, turn it into a number and spread it out over my lease and deduct that from my total month or my total monthly payment. So if you're getting 8 weeks, it's like 2 months free. You could deduct $150 to $200 off your rent, if you decide to do it that way. So there's lots of different things that you can do with the incentives that are happening right now. And they do that. They'll do 8 weeks free or 2 months free so that they don't have to lower the price of the total rent. But little tips and tricks to help you guys out there. Let's take a look at distressed properties. This is going to be the foreclosures, the short sales, and all of those things that we're seeing. This is a map of the current foreclosures that are kind of on the market right now across the valley. And we're seeing the greens are actives and the oranges are under contract with a buyer. So these are people who are purchasing these foreclosures and short sales. So the different kinds of foreclosures that we see in the market right now, we have pre-foreclosures with equity, which are people who missed. What happens is if you miss your mortgage payment for 90 days, you are going to get a notice from the bank saying, hey, you're behind on your mortgage. In the next 90 days, if you don't become current, there's going to be an auction sale and your house is going to go up for auction. If nobody buys it at the auction, your house goes back to the bank and you lose your house and you foreclose on your house. So pre-foreclosures with equity are people who are behind on their payment, and they probably listed their house because they know they could sell it and they could pay off the bank and have a little bit extra to move on with their life after missing the payments, right? So that's one type of pre-foreclosure with equity. Another kind of pre-foreclosure is without equity or negative equity. And those are commonly known as short sales, because what we call them short sales because we actually have to short the bank on the amount owed. So what happens is that somebody will be behind on their mortgage, and then they'll want to try and sell their house to pay the bank as much as they can, right? But maybe they bought it for $500,000 and it's only worth $450 now. Well, there's a $50,000 deficit that the bank would have to say, like, yes, you can sell your house for $450,000, and then the homeowner would actually get taxed on that $50,000 that is delinquent. So, but the bank has to approve those sales versus like with equity, you just sell your house normally, you pay off the bank and you walk away. But with a short sale, you have to kind of go through a process and get that approval before you can close on the house. So those are pre-foreclosures. And then we have full foreclosures, right? And so like I said, once the house goes to that auction, after you've missed your payments for 90 days, 6 months, right? First 90 days, then you get that letter, then it's another 90 days. So it's a full 6-month period. So your house goes to auction after 6 months. And if nobody buys at the auction, it goes back to the bank. And banks are not allowed to own real estate. So what they'll do is they'll put the house on the market, on the open market, on the MLS, and they will list it with a real estate agent, and it'll go on as a foreclosure. And these ones are a little bit more detrimental to our market, because what usually happens is that the bank will list a home, and if it doesn't sell within 30 days, they usually, drop the price a couple percentage points, and then, see if they can stimulate a buyer from price reduction. And if that doesn't work, after another 30 days, they drop the price, and they just keep dropping the price every 30 days. And that's how our market fell last time. Like that's why our market quickly in 2007, 2008, when we started to see these foreclosures hit the market, like the banks were just reducing the price every 30 days, which caused our market to drop so quickly. What I want to say right now is that we're not seeing the amount of foreclosures that we saw last time. I want to be very clear. Our foreclosure numbers are still very, very low here in Phoenix. However, this will affect our market going into 2024 because we haven't had them on our market. Foreclosures have been in moratorium since 2020, since COVID hit, because the government says nobody's going to foreclose. We're going to hold everything up. We're going to prop everything up, and the banks aren't going to foreclose on you. And you're going to have time to, figure your stuff out if you get laid off, right? And then the government sent all of those stimulus package and money, and we got mailbox checks and all sorts of things happened, right? So the banks weren't foreclosing, and it really took them a long time to turn the foreclosure system back on. And we're just starting to see it. This year, we've started to see the foreclosures. The notices have been hitting. There's been listings coming to the market, and we haven't seen that. And so with us being in such low inventory, we would think oh, well, we don't have a lot of inventory, but with interest rates so high, we're actually not seeing the buyers even purchase some of these foreclosures. So there has been foreclosures that have been on the market for at least over 4 or 5 months. And again, all they're doing is dropping the price. So that's why we need to keep an eye on these foreclosures. I think at least going into 2024, this is an emergent trend because we haven't had these on our market in such a long time. So this is everything I just talked about here. But let's see the top cities that have foreclosures. Let me move my little face. So we have Phoenix has the most amount of foreclosures right now on the market is the city of Phoenix. The average foreclosure price is $424,000 right now, and the average price for the city of Phoenix is $580,000. So you can see that like foreclosures are a deal right now for anybody looking in the city of Phoenix. And then we have Mesa. Mesa is the city with the second most largest number of foreclosures on the market right now. And I think Mesa is a $450,000 average price. And so you can see their foreclosures are about $435,000. I haven't checked the days on market there, but if they're not selling, I would think that there's going to be more price reductions coming to these foreclosures. And then we have the city of Scottsdale. And if you remember, if you watched one of my shorts, I went over the top 5 cities that have been holding value or increased in value. And Scottsdale was actually, value was up this year 0.4%. I know it's not a big, like huge, like increase, but they've really been holding value. And so the fact that Scottsdale's also on this list of the third most foreclosures around the valley is something to keep an eye on. The average price of these foreclosures right now for Scottsdale is $753,000, which is really low considering I think Scottsdale was, I think, at 1 point something million for their average price. So getting a foreclosure right now is a deal if you're looking in Scottsdale. Buckeye, the average $345,000, and Sun City we're at $334,000 for the foreclosures that are on the market right now. There are less in these two. They kind of tied at the bottom, but these are the top 3 that have the most. And if you're looking for a list of foreclosures, make a comment on under this video, and I can send you a list of foreclosures. What else we got? So the other thing I want to talk about foreclosures is, trying to forecast where we're going to be and what it looks like. So I pulled this graph from the Fed. This is the relationship between unemployment and the late credit card payments. And I did late credit card payments because they actually correlate with foreclosures and the rate of foreclosures. So we can see here in 2008, right? This is unemployment. And so unemployment was actually really low pre the housing like fallout, right? And so we were at really low unemployment rate, and we were kind of holding steady like 2006, 2007. And that's exactly kind of the same structure that we're seeing here. If we start to see unemployment rise, the late credit card payments will also rise. And what's interesting is that we are still below average, I would say, on credit card delinquencies, but it's really starting to spike up, and it's really low still. And so, but you can see it spiked really high during the last housing recession, and this kind of correlated with the amount of foreclosures hitting the market. We saw just so you understand, in Maricopa County, we were seeing like 1,000 foreclosures every single month. Right now, we're probably at about 300 foreclosures every single month. And I think like average, we're probably around 500 or 600 like every single month. So we're still a little bit under that. But it's still going to play a role because we haven't had 300 foreclosures at all in the past 3 years. And so the fact that we're starting to see 300 every month, and it's slowly starting to tick up. Like we saw 240, and then we saw 310, and then we saw 340, like the number of foreclosures. If you go back and look at the number that has every month been reported with the county. And same thing with Pinal County. It's slowly been rising down there as well. So if you're in Santan Valley, that is another thing to keep an eye on. But if we were to kind of try and correlate anything off of this, it would be that, credit card delinquency rate crashed pre-housing crash, crashed here, right? And then started to go up. We crashed here and it's starting to go up. So that is a trend like economic disaster, I want to say. I don't know if we're going into an economic disaster, but it's just something that's kind of correlating, and the trend is starting to match. So if we start to see unemployment rate rise, we will see this delinquency rise even more with the credit cards, and then what usually follows is foreclosures. So this is just something to keep an eye on and something that I look at, and to kind of go from there. And then I think that's really what I have for you guys today. Again, something to keep an eye on. So we'll start talking about foreclosures more. We'll start talking about the foreclosure rate. We'll keep an eye on, if we start to see that trending up, if we're going past like the average numbers of foreclosures, like if we go past like 500 foreclosures a month, I think that's something to look at between Maricopa and Pinal County. So that's all I got for you guys today, and have a great week. And if you need foreclosure data, if you want to get a list of houses, leave a message, and we'll talk to you soon. See you next week.